Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 61 of the Memorial Memo, KSR's Kentucky Women's Basketball Podcast. I'm here in Morgantown, West Virginia, where I just watched Kentucky beat James Madison 71-56. Now, I'm going to go ahead and make one quick apology, okay? If you're watching live right now on the KSR YouTube channel, you'll probably see that the setup looks a little bit weird. And normally, I like to do this over there at a desk. I have this mic, basically I kind of like screw it onto the desk almost and get it set up. The desk has like a weird lip on it to where I can't do that. So I'm trying to make it work the best I can. So I just want you all to visualize what I'm going through right now. Okay? I am in my hotel room in Morgantown. Obviously, I'm not going to dox myself and say which hotel. But basically, I'm sitting on a couch and there is this nightstand to my right. I'm looking the wrong way on the YouTube, but to my right here, and basically I have the top drawer of this nightstand opened up some, and I have screwed this microphone and the little stand that or the little, what do you call it, little microphone crane, if you will, I guess if that's the right word. I've screwed that into the open part of this drawer right here. And now this is how I'm doing this. I would never have thought that I'd be sitting in a random hotel room in Morgantown, West Virginia, with a microphone basically attached to a drawer of a nightstand. But you got to do what you got to do, okay? Because I want to celebrate this Kentucky women's basketball win. And another thing, because I wasn't able to set my laptop on the table like I normally do, if the camera's shaky, just know the computer is sitting on my lap. And that was the best I could do as far as the camera and everything goes. Shout out to Kentucky Rick, who says, "What's up, Phoenix and Kentucky women's basketball fans?" Kentucky women's basketball is up, the vibes are up, and overall feeling very, very positive about this Kentucky women's basketball team. So, like I said, Kentucky beats James Madison 71-56, and everyone, I think we all have the same thought about the game, which is, first of all, Kentucky gets out to this 32-10 lead at the end of the first quarter, and you're feeling really good about yourself. You feel like, oh man, Kentucky's going to beat this team by 40. We're going to cruise into the second round. We're probably going to play West Virginia. Bring it on. Let's go, beat the world, right? Let's go be world beaters. And that didn't quite happen. As you all recall, Kentucky got outscored 46-39, the rest of the game. And, it just kind of looked flat for the last 30 minutes. Kentucky, like I said, gets out to a 32-10 lead in the first quarter and then only wins 71-56. Kentucky didn't even cover the spread, right? Our friends at BetMGM had Kentucky as a 15.5 point favorite. Kentucky won by 15. Let me tell you, if you're a betting man or woman and you picked Kentucky to cover, what a horrible beat for you that was. Because at the very end, I think it was Barnes, number 5 for James Madison, basically just kind of throws up a prayer three, last second. Not Otega Owe-esque, but just throws that up. And I think it banks in, and that's how James Madison covers the spread. And, of course, Kentucky only wins by 15. So, it felt like Kentucky went flat. And post-game, Kenny Brooks was kind of asked about it, and I thought his response was interesting. After the game, Kenny Brooks talked about how, we really came out in the second half, and we kind of wanted to be vanilla with how we ran things, right? We didn't want to give West Virginia something to scout against, right? We wanted to keep everything that we were running pretty basic. We wanted to make sure that, the Mountaineers did not have, Kentucky, when Kenny does, let's just say like this, for example, right? Oh, when Kenny does this, that's that certain baseline out of bounds play. Or he does this, which I've seen him do a few times before. when he does that, and whatever play comes out of that, West Virginia doesn't have that. Now, obviously, I'm kind of, I guess skeptical is the word. I'm kind of skeptical about, like, well, couldn't West Virginia just go back and watch your SEC tournament film or your regular season film? I don't quite understand that, but I'm obviously not the head coach. Kenny Brooks is a lot more seasoned in the whole scouting and coaching thing than I am, so I'm not going to question him too much on it. But I just thought it was interesting that, what felt like Kentucky kind of going flat, them not really doing a whole lot, kind of really did just feel like they coasted to that win for the last three quarters. Kenny Brooks said they try to keep it pretty vanilla for the most part. So Kentucky wins 71-56, obviously. And I thought, of course, the game started out about as well as it could, right? And I think one thing that helped Kentucky get out to big leads is you could just see the size difference and the athletic ability, the difference there. And Kentucky, was just able to outmatch James Madison. Barnes and Peyton McDaniel, 0-0 for them. Two very good players. McDaniel had 15, Barnes had 16. Those are two very highly talented mid-major players. That three was by number 10, Williams, by the way, at the end, not Barnes. But, those are good players. But Kentucky, it's just a different level Sun Belt to the SEC. Right now, I'm looking at my television screen on the men's side, 11 seed Texas and 3 seed Gonzaga going down to the wire. Let's see, play-by-play. We got a 3 from the Longhorns in the corner to make it a 4-point game. And Gonzaga has just one timeout, and Mark Few's not using it. We're going to do play-by-play right now. That short Texas rebound, they throw it out. The Longhorns are going to advance to the Sweet 16. That's not good for my bracket, but shout out Longhorns. There we go. Huh. They didn't call timeout there to set up anything to... I know it was a 4-point game, but 11 seed Texas to the Sweet 16. Anyway, back to Kentucky women's basketball. It's March. You got to have all the games on. I look across the box score. First of all, I want to talk about Toni Morgan because number one, she was Kentucky's leading scorer, had 18 points. How about 2 of 3 from beyond the arc, 6 of 8 from the free throw line, had 7 rebounds, 7 assists, and the best plus-minus of the day at plus 24. But also want to talk about, when she goes down, I think it's the end of the third quarter, and, it looks like she is, I'm looking from above, and it looks like a really bad, calf knee-ish injury. And she isn't taken back to the locker room. So first of all, I'm like, thank goodness. But I'm also looking and just kind of monitoring things, if you will. Okay, I see she's hydrating, she's getting massaged, and she has one heck of a calf cramp. I thought it was funny. I asked her about it after the game. She's like, well, it's not going to happen again. I'm not going to let that happen again. So she's going to make sure she is plenty hydrated heading into the next game, I imagine. But, Kentucky did what they needed to do for the most part. Right, 3-point shooting started out a lot better than it ended up. 8 of 26 from 3, just 31%. But Kentucky, as I was saying before I started talking about that Texas game, Texas-Gonzaga, JMU shot just 3 of 17 from beyond the arc. And they started the game, I want to say 0-14, 0-13 maybe, something like that. And, again, it was just that length and size that you see the key difference there for Kentucky. Kentucky out-rebounded James Madison 46-38. And you go look at some of the other stats. Kentucky actually shot really, really well from the free throw line. I didn't know that's a sentence I would ever say. 15 of 18 from the charity stripe for 83%. 16 assists on 24 makes. Shout out to Sean O'Regan and the James Madison team. I was live posting on the KSR message board as always for the games. If you haven't subscribed, we'd appreciate it. Always good content over there, good discussion. But, I was sitting over there, and people were talking about how this has been such a crap game. And I can't blame them. Those last three quarters did really suck. But James Madison is also a really good team, right? Sun Belt Conference champions, Sun Belt tournament champions specifically. I don't think they won the regular season. They may have. I don't think they did. I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But, you know, they, they a 12-game winning streak. Like, that's a very good team. And obviously, they, trying to think here, they are, like Sean O'Regan is a Kenny Brooks protege. Like, that's a team that is doing very well, just as a program, right? I believe if you go to, like, he has, I want to say it's 236-ish wins as the head coach at JMU. Okay, you take how many wins he has in whatever amount of games to what Kenny did. Of course, Kenny has 377 wins all time at JMU, most winningest coach there. But, like, I think Sean O'Regan is pacing to pass Kenny in the near future. So, that would be what? Probably, let's see, if he's at like 230-ish and Kenny's at 377, that puts it at about, what, 6 to 8 more seasons, I guess? That sounds like forever now that I say that out loud. But, point being, James Madison is very good, and Kentucky, it is a solid win. Real quick, Kentucky Rick again saying you'd probably be good at play-by-play announcing, live watch-along in the future maybe. That would be fun. Obviously, it would have to be a situation where I'm not at the game. So it would have to be a road game. Maybe we could do one for like, if for any reason, if you all would be interested and Kentucky is not there, maybe we could do a watch-along of the national title game or something like that. Right. Maybe we could sit here and watch whoever it ends up being, probably UConn and UCLA if I had to guess. That'd be fun to do that. But to say I'd be good at play-by-play, if you thought that was good, I appreciate it, what I did for that, Horn Zags game. But otherwise, I don't know if I'd be good at it. Maybe I just got lucky for a few seconds. I don't know. Again, looking across the rest of the Kentucky box score, Amelia Hassett started the game making some shots and kind of went cold the rest of the game. 4 of 13 from the field and all of her attempts from beyond the arc, so 4 of 13 from 3. 14 points on the day, 2 blocks and a steal. Only had 2 rebounds, but Kenny Brooks was pretty adamant about how important she is and how good of a job she does, even after a day like today. She did have 14 points, but, at the same time, maybe not her best game, but Kenny's still very, very fond of what she was able to provide. Clara Strack, again, I would say James Madison did a pretty good job against her, considering the size and talent disadvantage they may have had, but 10 points for her, 14 rebounds, 2 blocks, 2 steals, also 4 assists on the day, so that's very nice. Tiani Key had 9 points, 10 rebounds, 3 blocks, 2 steals, so Tiani Key had a much better game than maybe I even thought initially, just kind of watching that game. Jordan Obi as well got into double figures, 12 points, 5 of 7 shooting, 5 rebounds, and 2 steals for her as well. Asia Boone did not have her best game as a Kentucky Wildcat. When she was starting, or at least when she first got to starting, right, with the Tiani Key injury, and then later on when they decided to switch the Jordan Obi and Asia Boone aspect in the lineup, she had a really, really good run there. And I think this last game, against James Madison, she just didn't quite have it. It happens. 2 of 7 from beyond the arc, only 6 points on the day. Did have 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 steals. So she is producing. If she's not hitting shots, it is nice to see. We talk about how, when Asia and Amelia are hitting shots, Kentucky is a completely different animal. But, again, that's a credit to Coach O over there at James Madison over there in Harrisonburg. Holding Asia Boone to 6 and Clara Strack to 10. I think that's about all you can ask for if you're Coach O. But, again, Kentucky just has the talent otherwise across really every position. So, You can take out those two, but Kentucky, they'll end up getting you somewhere else. Now, I want to talk about West Virginia. Number one, this is the nature of playing. I asked Kenny about this yesterday, and he was very adamant about, I asked him, do you like, I know you want to host, but is there part of you that kind of took, happiness and excitement and, what's the word? Like, we're going to go get them. Is there that kind of attitude about, you are the dangerous 5 seed playing at West Virginia, the 4 seed hosting. Like, is there anything to, like, being excited for that, even though you didn't get to host? Because obviously, remember last year, Kentucky was the Kentucky was the 4 seed hosting. They got taken out by that dangerous 5 seed. When it was Kansas State. So I asked Kenny, what was his thoughts on that and that whole kind of dynamic. And his first point that he made was, Kenny was like, I am a big fan of the super regionals. I wish we'd go back. He talked about, how they used to do it. He even brought up during COVID when everything was in San Antonio, right? He was like, I loved the super regionals. I don't think even if Kentucky's hosting and it benefits Kentucky, I think just the general idea of hosting, Kenny's not the biggest fan of. And I get it to a sense because he's like, when you have to go to a San Antonio or let's say Philly or St. Louis or Seattle, or wherever you're going, Fort Worth, Sacramento, like it is this year for the Elite Eight Sweet 16, it feels like an NCAA event. Like it feels like a big event when you go to these neutral sites, and I understand that. So I thought that was interesting from Kenny. But today, first of all, for the Kentucky James Madison game, so not West Virginia on the floor, Kentucky James Madison, that place was filled up, I would say 80%. And, of course, first of all, Hope Coliseum, I think, is one of the coolest arenas I have ever been in. Just, first of all, you're outside of it, the shape of it's cool, and then you get inside, and it's this big dome concrete roof, and it gets loud, because I imagine the noise bounces around in there. Like, that's awesome, and I cannot wait for that environment on Monday. That place was 80% full, and when I say that, I mean the lowers, there's a lower and an upper. The lowers were filled, right? And I would say it was halfway, 2/3 of the way full in the uppers. And then, for that West Virginia, Miami of Ohio game, that place was packed to the very, very top. And there were 13,504 fans in attendance for West Virginia, Miami of Ohio. That is a program record. That is a West Virginia record for women's basketball. And that place was rocking, right? I think about that Louisville environment I was at, the Kentucky environment against South Carolina at home. I think about, I was not there. Actually, well, I was there for Tennessee. Tennessee was actually a very underwhelming environment to me. And that was before they fell apart towards the end of the season. Like, that was right before that. So, I was kind of disappointed in Tennessee fans for the most part, actually. But, I imagine when Kentucky played at Texas, it was awesome. Just listening to it on TV and watching it, it looked awesome at LSU, but I was not at either of those games. This Kentucky-West Virginia environment on Monday, it's going to be, I guess it's going to be the best environment in the history of Virginia women's basketball. And, that's just the buzz and excitement, one, around the Mountaineers, but two, the sport in general. And, of course, you have a great team like Kentucky, the SEC team, coming to town. That place is going to be nuclear on Monday, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get some kind of, seismic radar pickup, earthquake signals from that place on Monday. It was absolutely rocking today against Miami of Ohio. And, hopefully on Monday, Kentucky can quiet it down. That would be ideal. Hopefully Kentucky marches in there on Monday and says, you know what, West Virginia, hold on. this is our building now. You take a back seat and watch, right? But like at the start of that game, at least that place is going to be a madhouse, right? West Virginia is currently 28-6 on the season. But right before I talk about them and what I expect out of that game, I do want to give a quick shout to our friends over at Rollback. Change the game with Rollback, a proud partner of KSR. Get the best fit and the best feel with their incredibly comfortable activewear. From polos and quarter zips to shorts and Delta Performance pants, you will look good and feel good with Rollback. Use promo code KSR for 20% off your first purchase at rollback.com. So, again, I look at the Mountaineers. They are currently 28-6 on the year. They have won, just counting real quick, 1, 2, 3. Nope, that's backwards. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 consecutive games. Their last loss coming to TCU on the road, but they just beat TCU in the Big 12 Tournament Championship 62-53 to win the Big 12 Tournament Championship, right? So they're a very good team. I've only lost once since February, and that was that TCU game back in mid-February, right? So, Mark Kellogg has that group clicking at the absolute perfect time, right? The Mountaineers are looking dangerous, and I think a lot of people kind of question how good that team really was because the Big 12's kind of been an iffy league. Like, it kind of feels like a two-team league. Like, is Baylor actually that good? Is Texas Tech actually that good? We saw today Iowa State's really not that great. So, it was just a question of how good is West Virginia really? And I don't know if we know 1,000%, right? It is nice to see them get that win over well, nice for them, I guess, or nice to see how good West Virginia is. You get my point. It was nice to see them get that win over TCU and win the Big 12 tournament. But now I wonder, okay, you beat Miami of Ohio. You took care of business in the first round of the NCAA tournament, won 82-54. But now can you turn around and play a team that, again, I have stressed this, what feels like forever, Kentucky's playing like a top 10 team for the most part. Certainly top 15, definitely top 20. So, can West Virginia beat them, right? If this game was on a neutral court, I would probably tell you that Kentucky would be the favorite. Like, I would probably wager to say that Kentucky on a neutral court might be a 4.5, 5.5 point favorite. Like, I think Kentucky would be that much better than West Virginia. But at home, in that environment that I just watched today, West Virginia might even be a 1.5 or 2.5 point favorite, if I had to guess. I'll take a glance at our friends over at BetMGM and see if they have an opening line. But in the meantime, I do want to kind of talk about what the Mountaineers, kind of bring to the table in general, right? So, okay, it doesn't look like, let's see, we do not have bets on BetMGM for that game just yet, but I'm sure we'll get that tomorrow at some point. It'll be interesting to see, what Vegas thinks if Kentucky's the favorite, if West Virginia's the favorite, and regardless of who is the favorite, how much are they actually favored by? That'll be really fun. West Virginia played in that game way back in November against Duke, where I think, West Virginia's entire team, I'm pretty sure, outside of the 5 that were on the court, got ejected. Like, I think everyone on the bench, I don't know if Mark Kellogg got ejected, but I was watching, or I saw clips of it, and, like, literally, I think they, for, like, maybe most of the second half or fourth quarter, I don't remember, West Virginia played with 5 people, and they won that game, and that was really cool. I think that was is there a place called Greenbrier? Yeah. Let's see, Greenbrier. Yeah, there we go. The Greenbrier 5. Yeah, they etched their name in history from that game. Greenbrier 5 refers to the 5 West Virginia women's basketball players who finished and won a historic upset against number 15 Duke on November 14th, 2025, after 6 teammates were ejected. Yeah, like that was really cool to watch and see. And of course, they've come a long way since then and have since proven that, they are an elite team, right? You look at their roster, they are led by Gia Cook, a guard, 14.7 points, 2 rebounds, shoots 32.5%, percent from beyond the arc. Kiara Wheeler, I believe she goes by Mimi Wheeler, yes. Mimi Wheeler, 13.3 points, 7.5 rebounds, 1.9 assists, and 1.5 steals per game. One of their bigger players at 6'1". This is a very small team that Kentucky's going up against, right? Like I look at their roster, Jordan Thomas, sophomore, 6'3". They have another player, senior, who is 6'3", but for the most part, they're pretty small, right? They have some decent size kind of across their backcourt. Like they are about 6 foot tall across their backcourt. Now Jordan Harrison, their elite guard, is 5'6", right? She of course averages 13.2 points, 5.2 assists per game. I was talking to them after their game against Miami of Ohio, and they feel really confident in what they can do. Like I think what's going to be so fun about that game on Monday is both teams are going into it thinking we're going to win this game, right? And obviously, I don't know if a team often goes into game thinking we're just going to lose, but it'll be fun because, if you're West Virginia, you say, well, we're at home. Look how hot we've been. We just won the Big 12 tournament title. We beat our first round opponent a lot more than Kentucky, right? Like Mark Kellogg and his team, they can go into Monday feeling super, super confident, okay? And if you're Kentucky, you say, well, we played in the SEC. We know how good we are, and we were vanilla. We cruise controlled the second half against James Madison. Okay, we know what we know what we can do. All right, we believe we are one of the best teams in the country. It's gonna be fun seeing both teams really just kind of duke it out on Monday. Sydney Shaw averages 12.1 points, 4.6 rebounds, shoots 41.6% from 3. Look across their roster. They don't do, they're a decent 3-point shooting team, 34.7%, and that's how they, I think, really got the best of Miami of Ohio tonight. But I don't think they're going to kill you with their 3-point shooting unless you just let them, which is certainly possible. But I just don't know. They run a much deeper rotation than Kentucky, obviously. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 players that they play north of 10 minutes per game. Kentucky has, I think, like 7. So, going to be a bit of a deeper rotation for the Mountaineers. But overall, I think this is a very even matchup. And I think we can expect, I think it's going to be pretty low scoring. Actually, like I go into that game kind of thinking how, is Kentucky, is Kentucky going to be able to get hot? Like, is Asia Boone and Amelia Hassett, are they going to be able to shoot the ball? Is West Virginia going to be able to do what they did to Miami of Ohio? Like, can they score 82 on Kentucky? I just don't know. I personally think this one's going to be in like the 60s. I think, I don't think it's going to be as bad as, that Kentucky-Tennessee game was. You remember, I think afterwards, Kenny Brooks was talking about how they set the game of women's basketball back several years or whatever. I don't know if it'll be that bad, but also don't expect this to be 100 to 100, right? I don't expect this to be quite the show that Kentucky-LSU, for example, was. So, I usually jot these down before I get on here, but I didn't have the chance to today. So, just thinking on the spot, my game prediction, my MVP, I'm going to have Kentucky winning. I do think the Cats will get it done in, a true road environment. I do think Kentucky has what it takes to get the job done, right? I believe in Claire Strack, believe that Asia and Amelia can get it going, and I believe in Tony Morgan right there at point guard. I think Kentucky is better across the 5 positions, and I think Kenny Brooks probably is the better coach. Mark Kellogg is an incredible coach, by the way. Like, I didn't realize he spent, until I was kind of researching them, he spent over a decade in D2, where he basically won 25 to 30 games every year and made the D2 national title game twice at 2 different schools. And then I think at Stephen F. Austin, he won like 20, 25 games every year and has won 25 plus games in his 3 years at West Virginia. They're obviously having their best year under him. Clearly an upward trajectory for the Mountaineers under Kellogg. But I do think Kenny, a bit more seasoned in this tournament, a bit more seasoned, I think, in general in coaching. Like, I think Kentucky, if you look at it, Kentucky, I'm not going to say they're miles better than West Virginia or anything, but I would say Kentucky might be here, West Virginia might be here, but it's a matter of who's going to execute, who's going to do what they do well, and who's going to take advantage of the March moment, obviously. But the big thing, I also think, like, I think we overlook it sometimes, like, how much is West Virginia's home crowd going to help them? Is it an 8-point swing? Do they have a 10-0 run? When Kentucky's up maybe by 8 in the fourth quarter, does the crowd rally them to a 1-point lead with 2 minutes to go? It's just going to be interesting to see. Like I said, I do have Kentucky winning. Like I said, I do think it'll be in the 60s. So I'm going to have Kentucky winning 69-65. I think it's going to be a very, very close game. I would be surprised either way if we knew the winner of this game before the final 3 minutes of the fourth quarter, right? Let's say the media timeout in the fourth quarter, which is an under 5. I would be surprised if we knew the winner of the game by then. I want to give a quick shout to this comment saying great stuff here. Thank you. As always, thank you for tuning in. But, I don't know. Again, West Virginia to me is very good. And I know the Big 12 is kind of iffy, and I understand that, and I also think that. But, again, I was very, very moved by that home environment. Again, it was 13,504 fans for their game against Miami of Ohio, and it was a program record for women's basketball. Right? I could see, first of all, it's going to be more. They're going to have maybe 13,750 fans in there for that game on Monday. But it is going to be more, and it is going to be an insane environment that I hope Kentucky can quiet down. But 69-55 is my pick. I did not do my MVP. I'm going to go Claire Strack as my MVP. I had Tony Morgan today. I think I wrote it in the preview that went out this morning before the game. Tony Morgan was my MVP. I'm going to have Claire Strack for the Monday game. She's obviously taller than anyone they have, and she didn't have her best game today offensively. Right, still produced otherwise 14 points and whatnot, but I just think that Claire Strack is going to have a game to remember, right? And I think Kentucky will make its first Sweet 16 since 2016, right? They've already won an NCAA tournament game in back-to-back seasons for the first time since 15-16 and 16-17. But now, to me, it's just a matter of getting to the Sweet 16, going down to Fort Worth, and if you're me, pray to God Texas isn't down there. But, of course, the Cats have to take care of business against a really, really tough Mountaineer squad first. So, I'm Phoenix Stevens here on the KSR YouTube channel, episode 61 of the Memorial Memo. If you have enjoyed, if you also think that, that we've got great stuff here, right? If you believe that, like, comment, subscribe, but do all those wonderful things for us. Both tournaments, women's basketball tournament and the men's basketball tournament, we have content coming your way continuously nonstop. So like, comment, subscribe. You do not want to miss any of it. right, from my end and from the fellas' end over in St. Louis. So again, thank you all so much for tuning in. It means a lot to me, Stephen Peak, of course, and the rest of the folks at KSR. Again, I got the Cats winning 69-65 on Monday. Until then, we party and celebrate. By the way, I thought, Country Roads Take Me Home, the John Denver song, I thought that's just something we all kind of did, and we're like, yep, that's West Virginia. Nope, they do it too. So we'll be singing Country Roads Take Me Home. Can't sing it too much here. We'll get copyrighted, and you won't ever see this video. But we will be celebrating. We'll be enjoying. Thank you, Kentucky Rick, for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Thank you all so much. Peace out, and go Cats.